Yeah, and I'll say two things about the Weimar hyperinflation. To be clear, I don't expect a hyperinflation. That's not, in my mind, the likeliest thing. I do expect, significant and sustained inflation over the next probably couple decades here. And I do expect people holding dollar-based assets, treasuries to suffer, right? So very similar to Dahlia's thesis, even though he doesn't really like Bitcoin. What if you read the history of the Weimar? There's some great books. I've recently been reading a history about it as well, as you can probably tell. There are some interesting parallels. So first of all, Germany owed reparations to France after the war, right? Denominated in gold, and that was part of the cause for the chaos because they couldn't honor those obligations, right? France thought that Germany was cheating because Germany kept on saying, we can't really afford these payments to you. But when French tourists would go to Germany, they would see that the cafes were full, consumption was really occurring, people seemed rich, there was full employment, and Germany felt wealthy and rich to this sort of shallow interpretation. And that's because people didn't realize, at a certain point, they collectively realized, okay, we don't really want to hold marks, so we're just going to go and consume, right? Why save? If your currency is being debased, why save? Go consume, go buy, expensive food and clothes, go buy up the inventory of stores and things like that. So there was this huge consumption boom in Germany. France, by contrast, was not issuing their currency at the same rate. And so there's a lot more apparent poverty in France. So all these European nations thought Germany was cheating on the reparations because they seemed wealthy at the time. But really, that was just the consumptive boom. Look around you. You see a consumption boom happening in the U.S.? Kind of looks like that to me. Or we'll see that in the next few years or months. That was the consumptive boom that, was the prelude to the collapse of the currency. And the second thing I'll say, there was rampant speculation when Weimar Germany in the early 20s on the stock market, on foreign exchange. The stock market did very well for a time, right? In particular in nominal terms, later less well in real terms. The stock market did extremely well. There was massive speculation. It became a household activity to speculate on foreign exchange. And then eventually, this FX speculators were demonized, as I'm sure will be the case here in the US as well, when we, eventually impose capital controls or whatever. They were demonized because it's like, oh, how dare you, trade foreign currencies and escape the inflation.
I always blame it on the speculators, always.
Yeah, I mean, and that was part of the undercurrent of anti-Semitism, which really, took flight in the 1920s, long before the 30s even, was because the Jews were blamed for the devaluation of the mark. And so, you see those historical parallels, and look, none of us expected to go the same way, but it's hard to not take notice of those parallels. Like, you look at the rampant speculation in, financial markets in the US here, it's like eye-watering. And it's not just in stocks, it's in all sorts of different, asset classes, obviously crypto, but also NFTs and fine art and baseball cards, other collectibles. Like it's absolutely rampant. So.